The last camel collapsed at noon. It was the 5-year-old white bull he had bought in Gallo, the youngest and strongest of the three beasts and the least ill-tempered. He liked the animal as much as a man could like a camel, which is to say that he hated it only a little. They climbed the leeward side of a small hill, man and camel planting big clumsy feet in the inconstant sand, and at the top they stopped. They looked ahead, seeing nothing but another hillock to climb, and after that 1,000 more, and it was as if the camel despaired at the thought. Its forelegs folded, then its rear went down, and it crouched on top of the hill like a monument, searing across the empty desert with the indifference of the dying. The man hauled on its nose rope. Its head came forward and its neck stretched out, but it would not get up. The man went behind and kicked its hindquarters as hard as he could 3 or 4 times. Finally, he took out a razor-sharp curved Bedouin knife with a narrow point and stabbed the camel's rump. Blood flowed from the wound, but the camel did not even look round. The man understood what was happening. The very tissues of the animal's body, starved of nourishment, had simply stopped working like a machine that has run out of fuel. He had seen camels collapse like this on the outskirts of an oasis, surrounded by life-giving foliage which they ignored, lacking the energy to eat. There were 2 more tricks he might have tried. One was to pour water into its nostrils until it began to drown. The other, to light a fire under its hindquarters. He could not spare the water for one, nor the firewood for the other. And besides, neither method had a great chance of success. It was time to stop, anyway. The sun was high and fierce. The long Saharan summer was beginning, and the midday temperature would reach 110 degrees in the shade. Without unloading the camel, the man opened one of his bags and took out his tent. He looked round again, automatically. There was no shade or shelter in sight. One place was as bad as another. He pitched his tent beside the dying camel, there on top of the hillock. He sat cross-legged in the open end of the tent to make his tea. He scraped level a small square of sand, arranged a few precious dry twigs in a pyramid, and lit the fire. When the kettle boiled, he made tea in the nomad fashion, pouring it from the pot into the cup, adding sugar, then returning it to the pot to infuse again, several times over. The resulting brew, very strong and very treacly, was the most reviving drink in the world. He gnawed at some dates and watched the camel die whilst he waited for the sun to pass overhead. His tranquility was practiced. Come a long way in this desert, more than 1,000 miles. 2 months earlier, he had left El Aguila on the Mediterranean coast of Libya and travelled due south for 500 miles via Jallo and Kufra into the empty heart of the Sahara. There he had turned east and crossed the border into Egypt unobserved by man or beast. He had traversed the rocky wasteland of the western desert and turned north near Khareg. Now he was not far from his destination. He knew the desert, but he was afraid of it. All intelligent men were, even the nomads who lived all their lives here. But he never allowed that fear to take hold of him, to panic him, to use up his nervous energy. There were always catastrophes, mistakes in navigation that made you miss a well by a couple of miles, water bottles that leaked or burst. Apparently, healthy camels that got sick a couple of days out. The only response was to say, Insha'Allah, it is the will of God. Eventually, the sun began to dip towards the west. He looked at the camel's load, wondering how much of it he could carry. There were 3 small European suitcases, 2 heavy and 1 light, all important. There was a little bag of clothes, a sextant, the maps and the water bottle. It was already too much. He would have to abandon the tent, the tea set, the cooking pot, the almanac and the saddle. He made the 3 cases into a bundle and tied the clothes and the sextant on top, strapping the lot together with a length of cloth. He could put his arms through the cloth straps and carried the load like a rucksack on his back. He slung the goatskin water bag round his neck and let it dangle in front. It was a heavy load. 3 months earlier, he would have been able to carry it all day, then play tennis in the evening. For he was a strong man. But the desert had weakened him. His bowels were water. His skin was a mass of sores, and he had lost 20 or 30 pounds. Without the camel, he could not go far. Holding his compass in his hand, he started walking. He followed the compass wherever it led, resisting the temptation to divert round the hills, for he was navigating by dead reckoning over the final miles, and a fractional error could take him a fatal few hundred yards astray. He settled into a slow, long-strided walk. His mind emptied of hopes and fears, and he concentrated on the compass and the sand. He managed to forget the pain of his ravaged body and put one foot in front of the other automatically, without thought and therefore without effort. The day cooled into evening. The water bottle became light around his neck as he consumed its contents. He refused to think about how much water was left. He was drinking 6 pints every 24 hours. He had calculated, and he knew there was not enough for another day. A flock of birds flew over his head, whistling noisily. He looked up, shading his eyes with his hand, and recognized them as Liechtenstein sandgrouse, desert birds like brown pigeons that flocked to water every morning and evening. They were heading the same way as he was, which meant he was on the right track, but he knew they could fly 50 miles to water, so he could take little encouragement from them.